Welcome to the Misophonia podcast. This is season 6, episode 12. My name's Deanna, and I have Misophonia. This week I'm talking to Deanna from Pasadena, California. Deanna is a food stylist and prop assistant in the entertainment industry in LA, and we talk a lot about misophonia and relationships, partners, roommates, friends, and coworkers. We also talk about misophonia in relation to other conditions and what she has learned from them to cope with miso, including medication. Plus, being HSP, highly sensitive person, living in a tough environment growing up, and of course, the many other experiences that are all too familiar to us. As always, let me know what you think. You can reach out by email at hello@misophoniapodcast.com or hit me up on Instagram and Facebook at misophoniapodcast. By the way, please head over and leave a quick review or rating wherever you listen to the show. It helps us in the algorithms, which then reaches more listeners. Thanks for the incredible support ongoing from our Patreon supporters. And if you feel like contributing, you can read all about the different levels at patreon.com/misophoniapodcast. Links to all those in the show notes. All right, now here's my conversation with Deanna. Deanna, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, for the audience, all I know is Deanna said she has stories. So as we all do. So I'm looking forward to that. But do you want to maybe start off by just kind of telling us where you are, what you do, just kind of basic stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in Pasadena, California, and I recently changed my career, and I'm doing food styling, and I'm doing props, which is basically anything an actor holds. So they need to be suited up in police gear or shown how to use a lighter or, given a beverage. You're kind of in charge of those items and resetting them for camera and all that
Nice.
kind of sounds easy than it is, but yeah.
Yeah, I would assume it's not, especially for continuity and things like that. So a lot of attention to detail.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, interesting. Pasadena and food styling and props. So do you want to tell us? It sounds like how's work then for Misophonia? I might as well start with kind of what you're doing now.
I am so immersed in what I'm doing, and it's so detail oriented and so specific that I'm only thinking about the job at hand and the next steps. The only time I've had challenges are if we are in, it's called the gold room, where we're prepping.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm with a person that is causing me troubles. But as far as on set, it's not even possible to be bothered. It's just it's too crazy.
It's crazy. Probably a lot of stuff going on, a lot of background noise. It's and very spontaneous and instantaneous. Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah. I did work in restaurants prior to this, which I find very interesting because, the amount of noises that are going on inside of a restaurant are Misophonia's kind of nightmare. But again, there's a lot of things going on at the same time, so you're kind of immersed in that work as well. But I will say that there are a few things that would happen that would really kind of drive me crazy. And the number one thing is when someone is stirring something hot with a spoon and they just keep stirring it, and it's like that noise.
Yeah, it kind of goes out and then it comes back in, then it goes out, then comes back in. Yeah.
And for some reason they do it for a really long time. That one actually makes me ragey. It really does.
Have you ever communicated that in whatever way?
It's more of like a walk away situation.
Yeah. The flight. Yeah.
Absolutely, the flight. Yeah. I did communicate in a public space once with somebody, which was, I think, other than my family, was the first time that I snapped on somebody in public.
Was it a
which was
stranger? It
it
sounds like
was
a
just
stranger.
it was
Yeah.
a stranger. Yeah, I used to live in New York City, and I was on the train, and for some reason, this woman was snapping this gum in a way that was like sending me. Um, and I should have just like gotten off and gotten on a different car or
Right.
whatever it was, but there must have been something going on with me where I just snapped. And I on my way out, I remember saying to her, "You should really think about other people in the car when you chew your gum like that." And her response was, "I'm sorry."
Okay.
And I felt like the world's like largest jerk, but her response was surprising, and my reaction was pretty surprising. I don't know that I've ever really approached a stranger in that way. I felt.
About anything, even like
Oh, no, no,
the
no,
misophonia
definitely
stuff. Yeah.
about misophonia. No,
Yeah.
I try to really do, as I say, do the work.
Yeah.
I'm doing the work. Um,
Well, yeah. Tell us what is the work? Is it just trying to like, check yourself, or is it more than that? Is it, I don't know, preparing for the next moment?
well,
It's hard to check ourselves in the moment, so
it's
sometimes
really
usually the
hard
work
because
is in between the moments. You know.
exactly the work is in between the like fight or flight, right? It's like that like work is like before you choose to do one of those things. And sometimes like we just don't have that bandwidth,
Well, a lot of
especially.
us don't want to. We'd rather not think about it. I mean, we'd rather not think about it
Yeah,
happening. So it's just,
absolutely. Yeah. You're in a car with four other people and you're the only one who's getting irritated by the driver's jacket, like rubbing back and forth.
yeah,
And you're just, I mean, I had a moment like that where, I had a really crazy injury right before COVID, and it forced me to go back to my home state of Massachusetts and be taken care of by a family member. I was walking and needed a lot of help. So she was doing me this great, kindness of helping me and taking care of me.
yeah.
And what happened was, not only was I trapped physically, but I was also trapped in the house. I'm
Hmm.
an only child, and I am sort of like, I kind of protect my space a little bit. Um, so here I was on the first floor, and I was right next to the kitchen. And it was right when COVID started. So the whole family came and lived there.
Yeah.
So there were five of us, and I
Wow.
was I was trapped in a bed and listening to like someone putting dishes away for like 10 minutes.
Right. Right.
Um, someone sniffling who sits at the kitchen table all day and sniffles.
Right.
And I'm just like laying in bed like, please
Did you
take me
do?
away.
Did you put headphones on or anything to
So
kind
it
of?
started
Yeah.
getting to a point that was almost uncontrollable for me because it was like every day, all day. I was being like triggered constantly. And so by the time I like wheeled into dinner, I was like so done already.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I had found these earplugs called Loop. And
Got some here somewhere, but yeah.
I put those in just to sort of soften the blow
Right.
at the dinner table. And that actually seemed to be really helpful. I started wearing those quite a bit. And I did tell everybody, because it's like you can see that I'm wearing like turquoise blue
Yeah.
circles popping out of my ears,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
it was for everyone's good, and
Yeah.
everyone was cool with it, and it was fine. But yeah, there were a lot of noises, and it was also like I'm trying to come from a place of gratitude where I'm being helped and taken care of, so I really tried to keep it down, but
Did they know about it beforehand? I mean,
one of
the
my one of my cousins who's younger knew about it,
yeah.
understands it, and was very, very helpful. Like, we ordered these, they're like runners that go under the door to muffle the sound.
Hmm.
She bought these things that you kind of put them between the plates. They're like these little felt.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Got those for me. There,
Wow.
yeah. So it was, I felt really bad when I did have explosions because it's like, everyone's sort of doing their best around this thing that is like really specific and I'm sure pretty annoying for another person.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm in this space right now where I just moved in with my girlfriend and um, I'm trying to not share the things like the long list that I have
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I think it's really me personally, this is just how I feel. I feel like it's really unfair to lay all of that on a person and then expect them to navigate every day, all day, knowing that you're in like fight or flight, maybe, or
Yeah.
I don't know. So I sort of have told them that they can't really listen to this podcast after it comes on, but we'll see what happens.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. It's a bizarre thing for someone who doesn't know it, to know what to do with, and then
Right.
yeah, you're right. It's like not only are you in fight or flight, but suddenly they're walking on eggshells, which
Yeah.
is basically two-sided. Eggshell walking is a weird situation
Yeah.
to say
So
the least. There's
exactly.
could be resentments that build up. So I mean, Misophonia, like I'm sure you've heard, there's all these second repercussions and secondary effects which you want to be careful about. Um, you know, provoking.
Right.
So we've got to be judicious.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like it feels like choosing the battles a little bit, right? And sort
Right.
of like I just it's interesting being with this person, I have such a genuine deep love for them that it's a little easier, whereas other relationships I've been in have been problematic for other reasons.
Hmm.
And the misophonia is like worse, which
In those situations.
in those
Yeah.
situations, in the
Yeah.
yeah, in the former relationships where it's like it's already sort of like
Well, this stress is no help for misophonia, right?
no,
So if
no.
it'll just get exacerbated, it just gets worse with stuff.
Yeah, so I'm like 40 now, but I remember the first time that I felt super overwhelmed with anger, and I was about 10 years old. And my father was sitting at the table, and we were having breakfast, and he poured this like giant bowl of cereal and proceeded to like put jam on top of it and then poured like a giant, he was like a runner, so he'd eat like
Mm,
giant portions of things and poured like, a half gallon of milk on top of it and just
on
started
his
going,
Wheaties, his
yeah, whatever
breakfast of
it
champions.
was.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hit the roof. I mean, I really lost it. I really,
Was it like he was doing it regularly, and then one day suddenly, no, there was no change to the routine, but one day you
no,
snapped,
yeah, that's
or?
a good question. He was sort of, my parents had split up and they were sort of trying again at this age. And so it was rare that I was seated at the dinner table or the breakfast table with him. So I kind of thought, wow, I just really don't like the way my dad eats. And so I started wearing headphones at the table with like a
Mm,
Walkman.
mm-hmm.
But I remember feeling really like a bad person. Like I remember feeling like a real jerk. Like there was something wrong with me. Why would I get to that level of anger? Like, it made me question a lot of things. And I think for a lot of people that are on this podcast and have listened to this podcast, I think a lot of people were really almost relieved when the New York Times came out with that article and like I think it was like what
2011. Yeah, yeah.
2011. Yeah, I think everybody. I remember three people sent it to me.
I had Joyce Cohen on the podcast. The audio is really bad, but she was the one who recorded that. Ironically, the audio was really bad, but anyways, yeah, no, you're right. I think it clicked for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And actually, going back to that breakfast again, I'm just very curious because you said your parents said were trying again after splitting up around that time. So was that a was there something unusual about that day? Were both your parents there, or was it just in the middle of this chaos that there was this one morning when you were seated at the breakfast table with your parents, with your dad?
Yeah, I think it was just a rare.
Yeah.
It just was rare, and my mother definitely has misophonia.
Mm.
So my mom is pretty conscientious when it comes to making sounds. So she has a sensitivity to it. So growing up as the only child in the house with somebody else who definitely struggles with sounds and anger, I think that was, I don't know, I think it was good and it was bad. It was good because there was like a softness there and like there was a little bit of an understanding, but it was also bad because we were totally sheltered together in this way.
Did you
Um,
know about it before you had experienced it? Did you know that your mom had some kind of sensitivity?
well, I didn't have that language
Right, right,
when
right.
I was at that age, but there were certain things that would send my mother like to a place, and
Yeah.
I just thought my mom was like angry, um, like a chip bag.
Right. So that stuff you kind of noticed from an early age, even
Oh
before
yeah,
going. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
definitely. And oddly enough, her sister struggles with almost the same sound sort of
Mm,
triggers that my mom does. So all three of us, when that article came out, were kind of like, "What?"
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, gotcha.
But
Okay.
my aunt does snap.
Yeah.
She snaps.
Like, okay, like in public or whatever. There's no doing the
She,
work.
yeah, she cannot, she is not doing the work. She
Okay.
is just like, she does snap. And I'm very, like, I sort of walk on eggshells around her,
Mm.
because I don't want to be in that situation with her. But
How is that? Does she have any story? I mean, you do the work, but have you heard of stories with her in public? Maybe, I don't know. Like, has it been a challenge for her, like at
yeah,
work or in the, yeah,
I think she really struggles, like, at
yeah.
work.
It's got to be if you're snapping all over the place. I mean,
Yeah, she definitely, like, her husband is, like, obviously super aware of
oh, so
her.
she has one. That's actually that's a good data point that she still
Yeah,
has
she
one.
has a
Yeah.
husband,
Okay.
and he's definitely aware of her miso, but
Trooper.
does
Wow.
not give a shit. Is
Oh.
just kind of like, I'm
Oh.
gonna live my life, like,
Okay.
and so
That's
I
an
think
interesting
that's
dynamic. Yeah.
yeah, I think that there's like some. I think that's probably the root of the snapping. Um, but yeah,
And
I think
what was just going back to their childhood? Do you know? I don't know, was there anything strange about their childhood that would have maybe something in common that may have, I don't know, something abnormal maybe that,
I don't know either.
yeah.
That side of my family is very private.
Mm,
They're not really into sharing that much.
mm-hmm.
So I don't really know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I just kind of am like, well, if the three of us have it, it must be
Yeah.
sort of genetic, but I don't know.
I've seen it show up a lot in families. I've seen it never show up again in families. It's yeah, that's a code that needs to be cracked somehow at some point.
There's another article just came out in the Times recently, I think a week ago or so.
Yeah, it wasn't the actual Times. It was like in some newsletter affiliated with the Times. But
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, there was something came out. A bunch of past guests are quoted in that article or mentioned in that article. Yeah, that got shared a lot too, which is great. I mean, it's amazing for awareness. Um, did but until that first article came out, there was probably, it sounded like, about a 20-year um period where you from when you were at that kitchen table with your dad, and then when you got the article, was your mom during that time, like, were you how was growing up once it started to like proliferate for you, and you didn't have that language? Like, were you getting support? Were you just,
No, I was not getting support.
yeah.
No, I had to just sort of. It really showed up in my family for me. It
Mm,
didn't really show up with my friends that much. I think
mm-hmm.
as a kid, I was like a little more, I don't know, relaxed. I didn't have as many stresses. But as I started to become an adult, that's when like all of the things that you experience as an adult, like, you know, being at a show and someone clapping in a way that's like awful to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
dated someone that was
Yeah.
a that clapped, that it was like piercing. Um,
Yes. Yes.
and it's like, how can you tell someone not to clap? You know, they're like expressing their joy, but you're like, could you
But
express it a different way?
if their hand met a 1 millimeter in a different direction, it would have been probably a lot softer. That's what I would have been thinking. But yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely had that thought. I really did have that thought. Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
And did you then? What did you say to to non-family members then, as you know, as you were an adult? And did you ever mention that, hey, I seem to have some kind of a sensitivity to certain sounds, or was it just trying to work around it?
Um, well, a lot of the time since I was working in restaurants, I just kind of thought I was overstimulated.
Mm.
And around the age of 29, I had a roommate, and we lived in a very small apartment in Brooklyn. And he's a teacher, he's a special ed teacher. So he has like extreme patience, and he's a really lovely person. And I felt very safe and comfortable with him. And I sort of told him that, you know, because I started cooking dinner. I used to be a cook, so I love to cook. Um, so I started cooking dinner for us on, you know, certain nights, and we would sit down. And finally, I was just like, "There's nothing wrong with you. Just start. It's really not you. It's 100%
That's
me."
a good. That's a good start. Yeah.
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 But I just want to tell you this thing that I struggle with. And so we started turning dinner into like record night also. So we would play records at like,
Death metal and yeah. Yeah.
yeah, just very soft. Yeah, we would play records at a pretty good level, and listen to music at the same time, which kind of took my mind off the
Mm-hmm.
other thing,
Mm-hmm.
which was really helpful. And that was a great experience. That really helps. I think eating in silence is like a bit of torture.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree. Everything is amplified. At least, yes, it seems like it. Okay. Yeah, no, that's a great way to approach that. And but anybody else did you tell any like other friends and
Yeah,
or
I had a few best friends that I
yeah.
shared that with. I think things with them became a little tricky. We all
Mm,
had sort of like small batch, either companies or products or whatever, and we kind of got together and made this space. They made the space. I kind of shuffled in there and started working with them. And so the first floor was like a large kitchen. So there was like two sides to
mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of really loud noises going on. The
Mm,
walk-in rumbling almost don't bother me, right?
yeah.
But we decided that it was a little too noisy and we needed to move our office upstairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we moved upstairs to an empty room that was dead silent.
Mm.
And
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, it was really problematic. And we arranged our desks in like a pyramid. You know, we were all really close together.
Okay. Yeah.
And I started to like hate
Them.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
The worst part is when they would bring their dogs in.
Mm,
The
mm-hmm.
dogs would
Yeah.
send me, I'm like pinching, I just realized I was pinching my thumb. The dogs, one dog was really big, and he had like this obsession or like tick. I don't know. It was like so annoying. But he
Mm-hmm.
would curl his paws in, and I'm not going to make the noise, but he
Mm-hmm.
would
Mm-hmm.
lick deeply
Mm,
in his paw over
mm,
and over and
mm-hmm.
over and over
Mm-hmm.
again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my friend, you know, had had the dog for 10 years and just tuned it out. And she would be like, tune it out. And I'm like, no, dude, I can't. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
cannot
Yeah.
tune it out. I wouldn't be in this situation if I could just tune
Right.
it out. I would do anything to be able to do that.
Amazing that that's even. Do normal people are able to just tune stuff out? The idea of tuning out and just on demand
Yeah.
seems foreign to me, but I guess some people can do that.
Yeah, so this friend in particular grew up with like a very loud and problematic sibling, and
Mm,
sort of took the route of like self-soothing, quiet, don't bother my parents, and had to tune this sibling out.
interesting.
So this friend of mine can pretty much tune anything out.
Wow.
We
Okay.
both lived in New York City, and we would be together, and my experience was very different than
Yeah.
hers.
Yeah. 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 And your relationship now with this friend,
Oh, we're best
non-existent.
friends. We're
Oh, you
best
are. Oh, okay. Okay.
friends.
So okay, gotcha. All right.
We're best friends.
And so so tell me about, so other than putting music on, is there any other like coping mechanisms? It sounds like, I mean, you mentioned a bunch like music during meals and earplugs in
Yeah.
some situations.
You know, the most interesting thing that's happened to me in the past couple months has been I was sort of writing this list for the show and just coming up with actually a very long list of
Yeah,
things.
please.
And what happened was 2 months ago, I've always sort of had like a depression in my life. It's been kind of waves.
Hmm.
And I've tried antidepressants, and none of them have ever worked. And this doctor put me on a mood stabilizer because I was diagnosed bipolar 2
Hmm.
at 40.
Hmm.
And it worked within 48 hours. And I've asked her recently if it helps soften this misophonia, because, you know, it's not as bad as it has been always. It's dialed down a little bit.
Hmm.
And I think it's partially due to this medication that I'm taking, which
Mm.
was, it's called Abilify. It's a mood stabilizer. But, you know, I was writing this list and I was like, this one doesn't really get me there anymore. And this one is okay. I will say that like a spoon, like a spoon hitting the back of a tooth or hitting a tooth,
Mm-hmm.
it really does make
When
me,
people sound like they're eating their utensil kind of thing,
it's
or
so
yeah,
hard.
yeah.
Do you have that? Do you
I'm
struggle?
not a fan of it. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
a fan of that sound.
I'm not either.
Yeah, and yeah,
It's
there's
tough.
certain people who do it, and it's crazy because it's like well, I don't know if it's crazy, but like when somebody's doing that, it's not necessarily every bite, so you're kind of anticipating like, is this going to be the one? And it's just like,
Yes,
oh god.
that is so true. That is so true. I really, yeah, you're kind of like, is it going to happen
And then
next?
your brain is trying to make ghost sounds because you're kind of guessing, anticipating. So yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, and the whole time you're like, I don't want to feel this. I really don't want to be feeling this, and I don't want to let this person know that I'm feeling this,
Mm-hmm.
because they're
Mm-hmm.
not really doing anything wrong, technically. I mean, you're really not.
Yeah, I mean, let's
No,
let's 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 caveat it with technically you're not doing anything wrong,
technically
but
not, but
yeah,
also
right.
you should not be doing that.
It would be preferred. I mean, it's not necessary to do that sound.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I was saying that in the beginning of this, I moved to, or I'm in Pasadena. That's kind of a recent move.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Before that, I was in Silver Lake, which is like kind of a
It's near. It's kind of central LA, like near
central
Echo
LA, yeah.
Park. Yeah.
And when I had looked at this apartment, it was still COVID, so it was different than when the neighborhood was in full sort of form, and there was parking, and the apartment was really cute. It was really quiet. And so I
Mm-hmm.
took it, and within like 6, 7 months or so, the school started opening up, and there was a school across the way.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's not like a high school. It was like an elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
So it was,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just screaming.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. Yeah.
It was, well, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It was It was horrible because school ends at like what, 2 or 3, but for some reason they're there until like 5.
There's after school stuff. There's, yeah, no, there'll always be kids there for something. Yeah.
They were always there. They were screaming. And then you're like, wow, I feel like a real jerk. Like these kids are just enjoying life. But I'm like, can you enjoy it differently? It's so loud.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
It's tricky. Because
Yeah.
during the day every class has a different recess, and they've just been stuck inside for hours, and so they're going to let out. You know, to them, there's just like I'm outside for a few minutes, so I'm going to scream.
Yeah.
To you, it's like, well, you're getting in a revolving door with every class coming through, so it seems constant.
You're
Yeah,
inside my apartment
yeah,
screaming.
yeah, yeah,
It's what
yeah.
it felt like, yeah. So moving to Pasadena has been really helpful because it's so much quieter,
Mm-hmm.
and I just feel like there's like a peace that's entered, which was a little overdue, and it feels a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was wearing earplugs inside my house, um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I
Uh,
lived alone, so it wasn't like there was someone in there that was. It was the children. The children
right,
were
right.
just so, yeah.
And then on top of sound sensitivity, do you also get that, like the visuals, the misokinesia kind of stuff?
That's movement.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the visual, it's like it could be move. Yeah, it could be movement. It could be seeing somebody chewing or eating or something like that.
I
Um,
do,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I wish that I didn't. I honestly, I've thought many times because it feels like two different things.
Mm,
And I'm like, if I could just have one of them, it would be so much easier. And this sort of seems like it's a little bit newer to me, is having these movement triggers,
yeah,
which,
it tends to come a bit later, or at least it's
yeah,
noticed later. Yeah, that's
yeah.
pretty common.
And it's just kind of like, I wish it's a little bit overboard.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
I have that, like, I had a friend who constantly, like, when we're just hanging out, like, constantly just doing this.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
It's
I
stuff like
guess
that.
people can't really see me, so it's like a repetitive scalp scratch,
Mm-hmm.
where you just almost want to grab the person by the wrist, and it's really crazy. Um, but yeah, I actually wrote some of these down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please.
Yeah, the movement, there's like leg moving,
Yeah, yeah. I've heard of that one.
very, very tricky.
Yeah.
Um, this is really, I don't know. Anytime someone is like rubbing their body or their skin in like a soft way,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, I this one is almost at the top for me.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like if someone were like softly rubbing their like chin over and
Right.
over and over,
Right.
or like rubbing their lips, or
Gonna
like
lower my hand now. But yeah, yeah.
very tough for me.
And
And it's
did that
kind
come
of
later as well? And it just kind
that
of
that's
leapfrogged over?
yeah,
Yeah.
this is like newer stuff. This is totally newer stuff that is not welcome, but is
No.
on the plate now.
Yeah.
It seems to be like I said, it's just like a little bit overkill at this point.
And
With
when you notice that happening, is it just you just happen to notice and there doesn't seem to be any correlation to anything? Or is it like somebody in your life happens to be someone who does it a lot, and then suddenly you've um, you projected it onto everybody?
um, well, it's hard to answer. It is a certain person for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very, very hard for me. And I I have been in situations where I've been in a small space with someone, and I start to, for a long, like when I work for 12, 14 hours a day. So you're really getting to know the people that you're
Yeah.
with in a way, and you're in a very small space. And I notice everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if that's part of this misophonia thing, but I notice things that like a lot of people I don't think notice, like tics that someone has or repetitive movements or
Emotional state too, like empathic kind of things too, or is it all physical kind of stuff?
I'm pretty sensitive. I think
Yeah,
I can kind of pick up some stuff in a
because
room.
if you've heard a bunch of episodes, you've heard of maybe the concept of a HSP, the highly sensitive person that's can pick up stuff or just kind of feels things a lot more deeply than the rest of the population.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly have not done any investigating in that. I do know someone who says that they're a highly sensitive person, a comedian friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I don't really know. I kind of feel like I probably would fit into that category. I just feel like I would love to just not add one
Yeah,
more thing to
yeah,
like the
yeah,
cornucopia that
right.
I'm working with. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's probably very possible. But yeah, sometimes working in a small space with people all day when you're having 3 meals with them, they're you're having a break with them, you're working with them, it's too much, it can
Mm-hmm.
be really
Mm-hmm.
too much. And a lot of times, like, I just kind of want to take my lunch by myself, but
Yeah,
it's kind of frowned upon. It makes you look like you're not part of the team or like you're not
right,
trying or like, and a lot of my work is like who your personality too. Like we're going to
right.
be around each other for a long time. So kind of get to pick the people you hang out with. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're
Mm-hmm.
a person who's like, I'm going to take this hour and be by myself, oddly enough, it's like you're not playing
Mm-hmm.
well. You're not playing
Mm-hmm.
nicely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so it's a tall order to be spending that much time with someone.
Did you so knowing that you have knowing that you have it would is this I mean obviously you love food, it's like would another career did ever was that another option, or is it just that you I mean I mean it's great that you love this career, but it's just interesting that when food or eating kind of related stuff could be an issue that you would have chosen this. But like you said, restaurants can be a lot of stuff going on. So maybe you made that calculation. I'm just curious,
Yeah,
was misophonia a consideration at any point?
no,
Hmm.
because I can feel it on a plane, on a train,
Yeah,
in my house, at the grocery store, at the doctor's office, with the doctor. Like if I were to make choices based on this, I would be like
yeah,
alone.
yeah, yeah.
So I can't really factor that in. And I feel like a lot of people probably feel that way. You kind of have to put it in the passenger seat all day,
Right.
right? I
It's
mean,
kind of a backseat driver where it's always yelling at you,
yeah,
but it won't go away.
yeah. I've had experiences where I imagine what it would be like to be like in this movie, say we're sitting and watching a movie with a friend in a movie theater, and they're just focused on the movie and like and what's going on, the dialogue, the plot, all of the things and for some reason, like, I'm fucking fixated on
Yeah.
this woman's every move with her popcorn and like, the like fabric that her jacket is making this noise, and it's like it's so sad sometimes, that like you can
Mm-hmm.
be taken out of things that you really want to be enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
It can
Mm-hmm.
be really sad. I feel that like during those sort of like episodes, like, you know, because like I know the person that's with me does not hear that, is not paying attention to that, and just like my friend was saying, tune it out. It's like, where's the pill? Like, what is it? What is it? I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, but
Right.
I do think that like with age, there are some things that add to the list, but I also think for me, with age, I've learned myself a lot. I've learned who I am on a deeper level. And I do have tricks that help, and I just don't want to be the person who lashes out or snaps or says the wrong thing because I didn't know how to harness
Mm-hmm.
my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like the last 5 years of my life, I've done a lot of work with harnessing my emotions and looking at them and learning what will make me feel better and doing it. And I think with anything in life, it requires your attention and your care if you want it to turn out well. And so with me, I'm like, well, this is one of those things where I have to put the work in and I have to like, do a meditation or, there's this breath work thing that I do. It's only 10 minutes, but if I find myself in a place where I'm just like so triggered and so annoyed,
Yeah.
I'll take that time and quiet myself down.
Yeah.
And it really helps. It really does help. But, tomorrow's a new day, you
Right.
know.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I do think that it does require action on our part.
Yeah. It requires some self-awareness, knowing knowing some of the factors like stress or sleep or what, all these other things. And if you can definitely make things worse for yourself by not taking care of those factors. And so whatever we can do, I think, to kind of like give us the best chance of not hitting the peak or at least coming down
Right,
faster, I think is helpful. So
right.
how did you get to some of the I don't know, like these tricks that you say you found, or was it just kind of like just thinking on your own? Did you read a book? Did you talk to people?
Um, well, I've had the same therapist for about 5 years, and she's very like on the holistic sort of end of things.
Yeah.
And she has gotten me really into meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not saying I'm very good at it, but I do have ones that work well for me. I'm not like trying to sit in a room for 3 hours in dead silence, but
Yeah.
I'm more like put the headphones on and like guide me somewhere for about
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it works. Like I said, breath work really works for me. But I don't know. I came from a pretty I came from a really like intense household, and
Yeah. Yeah.
family that, I mean, there was a lot of things that I saw and experienced that I probably shouldn't have as a kid.
Mm.
So that led me to having to work on myself quite a bit in order to be like not as feral as maybe I could be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, that was sort of the thing that has kicked it off for many arenas in my life, not just misophonia, but just trying to overall be a person who slides into society and can kind of make it through the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's books, that's therapy, that's meditation, that's, not drinking. I feel like if you drink on a regular basis, it kind of spikes your anxiety. Um,
Yeah. I've made the same decisions to kind of like I've
yeah,
made some observations, and it's like,
totally.
yeah, it's you're again, you're putting yourself at a higher probability of hitting
Yeah,
a peak that you don't want to get to. So why
yeah,
bother?
exactly. And I feel like, the having that night is really fun because I don't know, when I'm like having drinks or whatever, I'm actually not thinking about your noises or I'm like it's easier and it's almost like it's not even there with me.
Mm-hmm.
But that next day, if you do have a hangover, which I don't know, at my age now, it really doesn't take much. That anxiety
Yeah.
does not help. So
Right.
it's almost like double the next day, which
Right.
was it worth it?
Right. Right.
No.
Yeah. No. Very very true. Um. Yeah. No, that's yeah. That's a good realization. And going back to you, well, are your parents still with us? Like, do they know about or does your dad know about the misophonia? Or
No,
okay,
I've never told him about it,
yeah,
because I don't know that he would be like, I don't know. No.
yeah, yeah, okay,
My mom definitely, but
yeah,
as
yeah, 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 yeah,
has it
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and makes people uncomfortable because she does not know how to harness her
Oh, she
emotion.
doesn't. Okay, okay. So
No,
yeah,
totally
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, not at all.
She's not doing the breath work and everything.
No, she is not doing any of the work. I'll tell you that right
Yeah,
now. No.
boy. Okay. Um, yeah, it's interesting because I mean it's just even probably even more foreign to people who are about older generation because I mean
Yeah,
you think we are just coming to terms with mental health stuff. I mean
right.
there was very little. It was just like insane asylums and that's the era that they grew up
Yeah,
in.
totally. Yeah, they only have,
Lithium and sanitariums. So
yeah.
uh, so your your you mentioned you had some like, kind of comorbid conditions. Do you feel like they're more kind of under control and your like your doctors and therapists are more familiar with those and misophonia is this one thing that's kind of hanging out there or
What
um
are you specifically? Which one?
I'm just gonna say, well, so maybe start with a simpler question. So, like, your, I mean, it sounds like your doctors and therapists are familiar with like your, like things like bipolar and whatnot. Were they at all familiar with misophonia before you went in there? Like, were they able to help with that?
You know, I rarely tell anybody I have
Mm-hmm,
this,
mm-hmm,
because there's nothing that they can really do for me, unless you're my partner and we're sharing a kitchen table or a car. You know, I don't tell. I don't tell many people at all.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't think that it's understood enough. And it's not that I have shame around it. I really don't. I don't want people to know that like they bother me, essentially.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And with therapy, like it's honestly, I had some bigger fish to fry
Yeah,
than
well, right. So I
you
was going
know.
to say,
Yeah,
I think I was kind of curious about like, I mean, you come in on this podcast, so obviously it's a big part of your misfit, a big part of your life. I'm just curious, kind of how, um, I don't know if it's a fair question, but how does it fit in with some of the other stuff going on in your life, and is it taken seriously by your doctors and therapists? Sounds like you don't even really bring it up because you have
I
bigger
don't
fish to
really bring
fry.
it
Yeah,
up. I
yeah.
really don't. I think that like I've had to do a lot of work on myself, which was like, you know, being more open and more understanding and more patient in general.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
with that, I've just sort of like dragged that in on my own and applied the
Yeah,
things that I
yeah.
do to make myself feel better. I apply those things to this as well. I really,
Gotcha. Okay, so
yeah,
the lessons you brought, lessons you're bringing from other maybe you're using as some of the other work you're doing on yourself to heal from whatever whatever you're dealing with, you're kind of like applying
yeah,
some of that from misophonia or whatever
totally.
works. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, it's all helpful. So yeah, I totally agree. Everything you're doing is helpful. Less drinking, more breathing, and more quiet
Absolutely.
meditation, um
Yeah.
to kind of give yourself your best foot forward in the day, at least the current
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
um Very cool. Do you have anything else other more on that list that you wanted to share? Was it a list of triggers or was it a
I
list
want to
of
say this because I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like
yeah.
a lot of people are going to be like, yes. But I don't know. Recently, they've come out with those new plastic bottles that are less plastic
Okay, okay.
and they're really thin and they're
Mm.
very easily like crushable.
Crinkleable? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, I get it with the less plastic, but my God, those things those
Yeah,
will take me over the edge if someone starts playing with that. I
yeah,
will
yeah, yeah.
ask them to stop. Or a pen clicking, I'll ask you to stop doing that in a
Right.
nice way. I try. There are
Yeah.
times where I'm not that nice. But yeah, clicking a pen, sniffling, throat clearing, thin plastic bottle crushing, spoon stirring in a mug, loud clapping. The throat clearing is real. Certain gum chewing I can be okay with.
I mean,
It's
it
not
can be
all
done quietly. Sometimes you don't necessarily need to know.
right.
You don't need to
My girlfriend
broadcast
just
that you're chewing gum. I mean, it's like,
yeah. My girlfriend just quit smoking like a nicotine vape and is now on nicotine
oh,
gum.
yeah, Nicorette. Yeah. Okay.
And I'm convincing myself that I like the sound of the gum because I think I will like have to move on top of the roof or something. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to just convince myself that it's fine. And I
I'm
asked the other day
curious
how
how that
long.
goes.
Yeah, we'll see. Apparently,
Yeah.
it's a 4-month process, and we're about 2
Oh,
weeks in. So
okay. So
I'll
she,
just
well,
check.
I mean, sometimes that's helpful to know that, hey, it's going to end. So, it
Yeah,
sucks for
it's
now.
gonna
It's
end.
better for your best friend's health, I guess. And then, yeah, it'll be over in a couple months. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's better than assuming that this is going to be a lifelong sentence.
Yeah, I don't think I would. I don't know what I would do if it were
Yeah.
life. That's a little too tricky for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we're getting, I guess, yeah, we're getting close to an hour now. Is there anything else on that list or any other kind of like
No.
things that that have come up? I mean, now that you're, yeah, I mean, I guess you've been in Pasadena for a bit. I mean, so you're in the food industry, and like, COVID's starting to kind of like, level out a bit. Do you have any? I don't know. Do you have any plans going forward? I mean, moving to other? Are you sticking at your current restaurant or whatever, or are you planning to? I don't know. Do you have any plans for the future? Basically, is what I'm saying. Now that you've kind of done
Um.
some work and can maybe, I don't know, or you're kind of
Yeah.
happy where you are. You're away
I'm
from that school.
pretty.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good where I am for
Yeah.
now. I put a lot of money, energy, time, and care into getting into this field that I'm in, and I'm gonna make it work
Hmm.
for as long as it feels good.
Yeah.
Um,
That's great.
I don't think that I'm subscribing to anything forever, but um, for right now, it's okay. It's good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think for sure there's something probably in the future for me that's a little bit different. I definitely fantasize of having, a very quiet office by myself, doing what I don't know. But
Right.
whatever that office does, it's
Yeah.
just me in there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Are there
that's
any other therapies or like I don't think so, you sound like you tried a bunch of work. Is there anything that you're curious about that you want to maybe try? Not that there's a lot for misophonia. I mean, there's no cure, but CBT therapy or CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy, or anything
yeah,
else that you've.
I've seen that helps. I just like I can't imagine that would help. Talking about it, like
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm more action based. Like I
Mm-hmm.
must do something that's gonna I don't know, give me a result.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
not that talking doesn't, obviously, it's very powerful, but I don't know. I think I need something that's like a little bit stronger than that,
Mm-hmm.
where I need to like step out of my mind and body for a little while or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
listen to music on headphones or um, start a cooking project.
Right.
Cooking is very, very, very meditative for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's kind of like
Very
coding for
helpful.
me, maybe. Yeah. Okay. So, when you're cooking, are you kind of like zoned out a little bit? I mean, it,
Oh
it
yeah.
must be kind of nice to get that crackle if you got stuff on the stove or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very meditative. It's very calming. It makes me feel like, it's a bit of a hobby. I think it's really important to have, purposes. And I feel like that's a little bit of a purpose for me. And I immerse myself in it to a point where I actually can tune things out.
You can when you're cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
could see that.
can.
But that's interesting because sometimes when if you're focused on something that you're really interested in, yeah, a sound that could knock you out could be kind of extra annoying because it's kind of knocked you out. But
Well,
it seems like for you, you're able to kind of just tune things out because you're so immersed in it.
well, the good thing about cooking and when you're in control is you're the one that's doing all the noises. I'm the one who's creating
Gotcha.
all the noises, which
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I rarely get annoyed by myself or,
Yeah.
so
Most
I
people
think,
don't. Yeah.
right. I think there's a lot of, I think that's really interesting. I think it's like I'm putting myself in a position of control.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if someone else is cooking in a way and they're stirring something in a really irritating way, then
Right.
I'm like pissed,
Right.
and
Right.
I would rather not be pissed. So I think being the cooker in control
Yeah.
is helpful.
Yeah. I'd rather not be pissed. Maybe that's a good closing kind of
I'd rather not be pissed.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, anything. I guess. Yeah. Anything. Any final thoughts or advice you wanna share with people? This is super. Yeah. I mean, this is super helpful already. I think I'm gonna
Yeah, I
go
mean,
meditate a bit before I go to bed. But
yeah. I think the most helpful thing for me has been if you can find it on like Insight Timer, there's like a little app you
I've
can
heard of that.
download.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's really quick breath work, 10-minute breath work
That's what I was
on.
going to ask you.
Yeah.
Which app do you use? A Headspace, whatever? But it's Insight Timer.
Insight
Yeah.
Timer,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll even give you like the person, I think it's really helpful. Her name is Julia and her last name is Frodal. It's
Okay.
FRODAHL.
Okay.
And there's a few meditations that she offers. One of them is for calm and anxiety.
Okay. Okay.
And it's breath
Calming
work
anxiety.
and it's about 12 minutes and it's incredible. Very, very
Gotcha.
helpful.
Okay.
It just like dials your heart down. It
Yeah.
dials everything down and gets you to a really good place. You can do it on your lunch break. You can do it, it's like it's approachable.
Is it like does it involve like breathing out longer than you breathe in? This seems to be
Totally.
what a lot of these are about. Okay.
Yeah, you
Cool.
work up to that and
Yeah.
then exactly. It's
Okay.
very, very
No,
helpful.
I've heard that from many
Yeah.
misophonia related kind of therapists. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll probably put a link to that in the show notes. That's super helpful.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, Deanna, thanks
Yeah.
again for chatting. This is super helpful. I know it's gonna help a lot of people who can relate. And yeah, good luck with everything.
Okay, cool. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Deanna. If you like this episode, don't forget to leave a quick review or just hit the 5 stars wherever you listen to this show. You can hit me up by email at hello@misophoniapodcast.com or go to the website at misophoniapodcast.com. It's even easier to send a message on Instagram at Misophonia Podcast. Follow us there or Facebook at Misophonia Podcast, and on Twitter we're actually at Misophonia Show. Support the show by visiting Patreon at patreon.com/Misophonia Podcast. The music as always is by Moby, and until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.